What's going on, everybody? I'm John J. II, and this is the Gin College Podcast. I'm here with my co-host, Cody Almasi. Cody, how are we doing today, man?
You know, we're a little somber on this recap Monday. It's a tough weekend, and if you're a Wolverine fan, as you know, lot to talk about. Gonna get right into it. You know, that's what you got to do when you got something that hurts. You got to talk about it, get it out there, deal with your feelings.
100%. Got to get it off your chest, and just kind of get it out there. It's tough, and I talked to Cody and talked to multiple Michigan fans before this podcast earlier this weekend, and I feel for you guys. I really do. That's tough. If I was in your guys' shoes, I really can't explain how I would react or how I would be. So for Cody especially, this is directed at Cody because I had a lot of Michigan fans coming at me that were not very happy with me personally. It seemed like, I know they weren't coming at me personally. They were coming after my Spartans, but the way Cody handled it, I got to give him credit and props for that. And yeah, it was a crazy game, heartfelt game. And nevertheless, I got to give everyone credit for having passion and, the grit and the will to really watch your team play and have the passion to watch them and hope for the best for your team. So I got to give you guys credit, but hard fought win for the Spartans, man. Got to give it up for Kenneth Walker, Peyton Thorne, the entire Spartan offense, Mel Tucker, the list goes on and on. Tell me your takeaways from the game. Tell me your heartbreaks and tell me where it went wrong for the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah, don't even know where to start. So many things to really break down in this game. First of all, like you said, want to give credit where credit is due. Kenneth Walker, the third game of his life. I don't know all of his game stats for his career, but I got to imagine that one might mean something more to him. And that really, I hope, anyway, I was watching this at the restaurant, at the bar, I was making a case for Kenneth Walker, and that I'm sick of seeing these quarterbacks ahead of him from Pittsburgh and Ole Miss and teams taking losses. He single-handedly put the city of East Lansing and the Spartans on his back. I mean, he had some help from the defense, of course, and Mel Tucker. The wide receivers picking up some of Peyton Thorne's passes off the ground. They really stepped in, and it was a team effort. But Kenneth Walker, man, he better get the Heisman. He better be in New York. It's cool to hear the announcers allude to that, how it's always been a dream for his mom to be in front of him when he gets that award. So yeah, I'm pulling for him. I'd love to see that happen.
Yeah, me too. And I put him on my Heisman watch list since the beginning of the season, seeing his performances, day in, day out, game after game, seeing how he is putting everything on the field, putting the state of Michigan and the Michigan State Spartans on his back, like you said. And he really does that game after game. And I said this before, I'll say it again. If you give him open grass, he's going to take advantage of that open field, and he will run and he will break through tackles. He'll split defenders, do whatever he has to do to get that ball where it needs to be. And it's the end zone. Had a couple close calls in that game, a lot of close calls. The game could have went either way at any single moment. And, we can sit here and talk about them, but I actually rewatched the entire game coverage, watched the entire game over today. And, I look back and it could have went down to any call. And that really solidifies the fact that football is a game of inches, and it couldn't be more true. You look at any single call, from the fumble to the Peyton Thorne shin down to Kenneth Walker releasing the ball as soon as he's cresting the goal line, like things like that. I didn't see that initially when I watched it. I was watching it in Quintana Roo, Mexico, and had it on a small laptop screen, playing it off my JBL speaker. And I actually tuned in a little bit after that first drive or that first touchdown drive. I saw it, but I didn't really see the minute details that I wanted to see. But it could have went down to any single play. I guess, where did your Wolverines, where could they have played better? They played a hell of a game. I don't know if they could have played a better game than they played, but if they could have played it any better, if there could have been any better coaching decisions made, maybe from the coaching staff, defensive coordinators, Harbaugh even, what changes, do you think that they wish they would have made? What changes do you think they wish they would have made if they could go back and rewrite history?
So what really beat the Wolverines, besides Kenneth Walker, just one more to his credit, responsible for every single touchdown. he led that 19-3 scoring surge at the end to win. And he's what really started taking us out of the game. I said it in Friday's show. We could let him get one, get two big runs like that. But he had 5 touchdown runs, and he broke a lot more big tear runs that broke our defense. He took it out of Aiden Hutchinson and David Jabo's hands, who were just having a hell of a game up to that point. They were all over Peyton Thorne. They were causing havoc, caused him to throw 2 picks, lots of fumbles that you guys bounced back your way. You guys got on top of. And then once Kenneth Walker got loose, we were up 16, but he had already started to break our defense, and we got comfortable. We got conservative. It looked like the old Michigan play calling, run first down every time, put Cade in a 2nd and 9 situation, a 3rd and 9 situation. And it looked bad. We looked comfortable, but not confident, if that makes sense. And, JJ McCarthy, he's had a great season. He had a great pass to Andrell Anthony in the first half, and he's a freshman, and everybody's been screaming his name. Our fan base has been pounding the chest for him to have the reins, and we kind of have eggs on our faces now, any of us who were saying that. And Harbaugh, I think, wants to listen to the fan base, a little the critics, and wanted to get him more reps, but that is not the time. When Cade McNamara is having the best game of his career and the best game that any Michigan quarterback has ever had against the Spartans, at least yardage-wise, and they took the ball out of his hands completely. And I don't want to take away from what your defense did. Xavier Henderson, he was all over the field. Cal Halliday, you had some guys making some big, emotional, defensive Spartan plays, and I knew it was going to happen. That's what happens in these matchups, and there were some on both sides, and it was a hell of a phenomenal game. And it's not easy what I've been able to do over the last couple of years, take myself away and really not react emotionally. But that fumble game, Jalen Jackson Watts going to the house, I might have broke a few things. I might have made a fool of myself, but it's taken some practice. And then I want to be a professional now that we're broadcasting, doing this podcast here. So it definitely takes some practice, but I had to sit there. I had to sit in my car for like 15 minutes just in silence. And I was upset, man. That hurt. Oh no, I lost you here. I can't hear you.
My fault. I was muted. So I definitely understand that. I feel you. And, this loss, I put this on the pedestal just below the Jalen Watts Jackson fumble recovery from the punt. And, a touchdown in no time. That's the absolute heartbreaker, nail in the coffin, most heartbreaking loss for Michigan and the Michigan Wolverines. This one's a slight notch below it, I would say. And I'll let you answer that if you think it should be higher or not. But I got to give all the credit to Chris Brantley and, the Michigan State defense. Really, it's like you said, Cal Halliday, these guys, from crashing the corners, from that pick at the end, from reading the muffled punt, another trouble with the snap, which might have added insult to injury for Michigan, going for that 4th and 6 once they got knocked back from that false start call, having him run it. He almost got it, but the guy crashed and got him. It was just a crazy game, and you can look at any single moment of that game, and we don't want to rewrite history any more than we have to. I'm sure we could sit here and talk and go back and forth talking about the different aspects of this game. This game was obviously insane. I can say it over and over again. But a great performance by both teams. And I got to ask you this. Do you think having J.J. McCarthy and having the dual quarterback model for Michigan and the Michigan offense, do you think that messes with the dynamic? Because the commentators, they asked each other this during the game. And I didn't know, because they're like, oh, well, it's been working so far. They're 7-0 coming into this game. They got a very strong offense. Their defense holds them up and really bails them out more times than not. They've been making it work with Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy. Do you think having the dual quarterback model worked to the detriment of Michigan and the Wolverines, or do you think it still may help them going further down into the season?
I think that they just misused it. They had been using it the right way here or there, and this is just not the situation that you experiment with it or keep going back to McCarthy when Cade McNamara is giving you no reason. If the offense didn't have life for he was having an awful game, making bad decisions, then I understand, the kind more switching, but it definitely was detrimental in this game. And I really thought after that first fumble where they got lucky that JJ or whoever the lineman fell back on it, that we would not bring him back in. I thought that was safe to say. Went right back to him almost, and yep, wasn't exactly what ended it, but it was leading causes to us stalling and throwing that interception. That's the defender's name who got it, Brantley.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. Yeah.
And I want to go back to, well, first, just real quick, I want to David Ajabo and Aiden Hutchinson, that forced fumble where his shin, whatever, was down. That was a great play, and that you deserve some credit for that effort, and you deserve to be celebrating that. But we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to let the refs get more power than they deserve. And but where was I going to go? You're going to have to take it for a second because I forgot.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'll just talk about David Ajabo. Just the performance to be able to seal that end, to be able to crash, to be able to blow up that tackle, that left tackle for Michigan State. Absolutely blew him up and blew plays up and put incredible pressure on Peyton Thorne. It was just unprecedented, and Michigan State really hasn't experienced anything like this before. To basically stop David Ajabo from cresting the pocket, you had to hold him because he was too evasive. He was too powerful. He would either pancake you or he would get past you to the point where you had to hold him to stop him, or you had to let him go to avoid getting the holding call. So, when you got to make those types of decisions, it's not really – you don't want to be Peyton Thorne in the pocket in that type of situation. But
I wanted to talk about the series where Michigan had it 3rd and 3, and I really thought they should have ran the ball at least one. It was 3rd and 3, and they went for a deep shot, and then it was 4th and 3. They go for it, but they take another pass play, and just 3 yards, just 2 deep passes or medium to deep passes. Ugly.
Yeah,
and
a lot of it, yeah.
They could have kicked a field goal even at the point instead of going for it and only been down by 1 and been in a different situation.
Definitely, because they did wind up getting the ball back late, and then they had to, get really, really risky as far as getting the ball down the field. They knew they needed a touchdown. Being down 4, they had to get a touchdown when they had the chance to get a field goal early with maybe a minute left.
No timeouts. That's a terrible situation for Cade,
Definitely, get the points, give them the ball back, obviously, and then try to get them 3 and out. They did. And Peyton Thorne and Kenneth Walker, that you can seal them, and they sealed them in a 3 and out. It's crazy how that entire dynamic works, the sense of urgency. When the sense of urgency is there, you
totally
really
different.
It's totally different for the offensive side and the defensive side, because if they're willing to limit the amount of room and they can seal certain gaps without leaving huge holes and huge amounts of space for Kenneth Walker to run, they feel pretty confident that Peyton Thorne's not going to be too evasive in the pocket when he has to leave the pocket. Yes, he is evasive with the pass, and he will get creative and get some yards down the field, but he's not going to run for 20, 30 yards like a Cade McNamara will, even if he has open grass. I don't have the confidence in Peyton Thorne to make those types of long runs, even if he has the field to do it. And I don't think he's quick enough, personally.
Yep. It was very interesting to see how differently the offensive ran when they were able to have the tempo that they wanted to execute versus when Michigan was able to stop that tempo, because when they were able to run that 2-minute drill, they were looked unstoppable. Kenneth Walker was getting up from the previous play, and then they were running another play within felt like 10 seconds. And let's talk about the future. What happens here for both of our teams? You're the Sparties. You guys control your destiny now in complete control of Big Ten East. And what do you think, man? I love to see it.
Yeah, I feel good, going against Purdue next week. And then we got Maryland. Ohio State's going to be a tough test. And then as far as James Franklin and the Penn State Nittany Lions, if they can figure it out, that's going to be a tough contest. I'm most worried about Ohio State, though, and we got to take these next 2 games seriously. I'm talking the Terrapins. I'm talking the Boilermakers. Those games are going to be big wins as well, even though they might be undermined in the grand scheme of things when looking forward. No game is a small game. No game is a
both 500 teams. Yeah, you can't get caught sleeping.
Exactly. And then you got Michigan, too. They got Indiana, Penn State. They got to get Penn State out of the way, kick them while they're down. They got to beat the Terrapins at their house. And then it's going to finish off with Ohio State going into conference finals and things of that nature. That's really going to set the stage. And then you got bowl games to look forward to essentially, if you're Michigan, you got to win out. You got to win out, and you got to beat Ohio State. Even if you lose against the Penn State, you got to beat Ohio State. You have to make that statement win. Have to. And I told Cody this. I'm going to be decked out in my Michigan gear when that game comes, because I hate Ohio State more than any team in the world, professionally and in college. So just take notes of that. But yeah, both teams, they really have to keep it going. They have to keep, the mentality strong. They have to keep spirits high, especially if the Michigan Wolverines. I think you learned a lot from this game. Every single one of these players on this Michigan Wolverines team this year, 2021, they learned something, and they're really going to have to bounce back from this. And they're going to learn lessons, and they did learn lessons that will take them to the next level and take them into the next stages of their lives. So there's a lot to be learned from this game, win or lose. But the worst thing Michigan State can do is get complacent and get comfortable.
Definitely. It's still business to take care of. And
definitely. Yeah,
but you guys are in a good spot. I mean, if you lose to OSU, it's still things could happen. Like if you take care of business, otherwise you guys are both, it depends, goes to records, I think, at that point. But you got the head-to-head, so I think you'd still win with one. I don't know. It's going to be crazy when it gets down to those last couple games.
Yeah, it will. It will. And when you're looking at the standings, especially in the Big Ten Conference, seeing where those types of things, end up, and a lot of things can happen. You got 4 more games.
The Wolverines need you guys both to just fuck up somehow.
They do. They need Ohio State to lose, and they need us to lose, maybe in one of these games, maybe even to Penn State. Who's Ohio State got next week in the next couple weeks? Do you know? Other than us.
I did. I'm going to go take a look at that, actually.
I feel like they still have to play Penn State, don't they? Or they just played them?
They just played Penn State.
They just played them.
They have both of us, and they have –
what about Iowa?
They have Nebraska. They play Nebraska, then Purdue, then the Sparties, and then Michigan.
Nebraska, Purdue. Okay, so Purdue is probably their next biggest threat, compared to either of us. So they definitely – if we could both beat them, that's going to be huge for both of our teams.
Yeah, that would be.
So that's kind of the best case scenario for Michigan and Michigan State going forward. And then it's just kind of going to come down to records if it goes to that. As far as, there's still opportunity for Michigan to be at that top spot in the Big Ten East.
Just a lot would have to happen.
A lot would have to happen in their favor. A lot of teams will have to lose that might not be expected to lose. But crazier things have happened, and you don't want to count them out.
Why I think this is definitely nowhere near as bad as the 2015 loss, even though the year after we had a pretty good year, but 2015, that was just completely this is a heartbreaker too, but in a different way, because there's a lot of positives to take away from a great performance against a top 10 team. And if it wasn't against our rivals, you guys, Sparty, I don't think it would hurt as much. But we got fans just absolutely want to burn it down already, fire Jim Harbaugh. They say the season's a failure. If we lose to you and we somehow were able to get the first one in Ohio State, I'd be absolutely okay with that, So I think people just need to take a step back, relax, and really just keep showing your Wolverines some support. But Sparties, great job. I hope you guys the best of luck the rest of the season, as long as there's no chance for us to sneak through the back door.
Likewise, brother. I hope the Wolverines do their best and succeed as far as the rest of Big Ten play is concerned. And I'm sure
some hoops to get here so I can.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll get a very good bowl game bid no matter what happens. But they got to finish strong no matter what. Last question on the Michigan topic: bigger rivalry in your opinion? So not what everyone else says, not what the AP polls say. Bigger rivalry: Michigan against Michigan State or Michigan Ohio State? And why?
I'm going to go, at least I'll go with a personal. To me, it's definitely Michigan State, because I have a lot more Michigan State friends. I have Ohio State friends, but those are always kind of your douchebag friends. You don't really carry their opinions with as much weight. They're just like bandwagon Ohio State fans. They always have been, just want to be winners. So it's just a lot more competitive. We can't get any wins against the Buckeyes in recent memory, so it just means a lot more. It hurts a lot more when we lose to you guys, because it's not, even though in the last however many years it's been a little on you guys' favor, it just feels like we have a lot more chance to beat you guys every year, and we can beat you guys can beat us, but it's different. And I think the Michigan State rivalry means more to me personally. the fan bases both try to hype it up otherwise, but.
Good answer. I'm glad you said that too, because if I was a Michigan fan, I would have to agree with that. Even though, everyone says Michigan, Ohio State, that's the biggest rivalry in sports, professional, college, whatever you want to call it, high school, it's the biggest rivalry ever. Right. So that's been publicized as that. So it's really easy it would be easy as a Michigan fan, you would think, to just go along with that narrative and be like, okay, yeah, well, this is the biggest rivalry in sports. That's what everyone's told me since I was a little kid. That's what, the fight for the Ohio border, the Ohio-Michigan border back then, that's what it goes for. That's what it's basically built on. So that's why people say that. But to hear you say that, I would have to agree with you too, that is a big rivalry, especially being in-state, being as close to home for both of us. I would definitely have to concur with that answer. So great answer there. Let's move on a little bit, though. Let's talk about Iowa and Wisconsin. Absolutely dominant performance by the Wisconsin Badgers. And what's going on with Iowa? Are they down and out, or do they still have a chance to revive their season?
Yeah, I'm not sure. They're at number 9. I guess the 2 losses, the loss didn't really give them a sense of urgency, anything. And yeah, they paid the price. Wisconsin, on the other hand, started 1-3, won 4 straight, looking like a completely different team. One of the defenders, he was a mechanic for Halloween, and he got a hat for his team. And every time they got a turnover or made a big play, they wore the hat and it said gritty. And so the Wisconsin Badgers were fired up. They're feeling like they have a chance, and I got the Big West standings. We're going to talk about them in a little bit, but Wisconsin's not out of it despite losing 3 of their first 4 and looking like all hope is lost. They have salvaged somewhat of a season, and they're going to Minnesota, which looks like their best chance, biggest opponent in the Big West at the end of the year. A lot of stuff to happen between here and now, but yeah, definitely looked like the better teams. Hawkeyes only put up 7, just like they did against Purdue, and that once explosive, at least seemingly explosive looking offense against Maryland is nowhere to be found. Spencer Petras in an interview said, relax, everything's fine. I wouldn't be too relaxed if I was him. I don't know about you.
I would not be relaxed at all. I'd be in panic mode, code red. You got to get it figured out. And, you really got to, figure out what you're playing for. What are we playing for as the Iowa Hawkeyes? Are we done? Are we just going to count ourselves out? Because if that's the case, might as well just hang up the cleats right now. So
they were number 2 weeks ago. What the hell happened 3 weeks ago?
What happened? It started to be a spiral downward after the Penn State loss. And then, they lose to Purdue, and then just things kind of, spiral out of control from there. So, you got to kind of figure it out, see where you're standing at, see what you're playing for, and just kind of find that purpose, find that why. If you can't find that why, hang up the cleats and say, we're done. That's all you got to do.
It's almost like they're happy with like a middle of the season championship, 6-0. Halfway through, we're done. Number 2 in the nation. We made it. And then, yeah,
they're definitely playing like that. They're playing like that. So Wisconsin, the Badgers, not out. Iowa and the Hawkeyes need to figure it out, or else they might as well hang up the cleats. Moving on, let's talk about Ohio State and Penn State. What's going on here? Does CJ Stroud have what it takes to continue on the season? It seems like they do. This was a close game, nail biter. We saw a little bit more of fire from the Penn State Nittany Lions than we have in past weeks. Tell me about this game a little bit.
Yeah, I was really impressed with what I've seen from the Nittany Lions after what happened to them in Illinois, or not against Illinois, because that was in Beaver Stadium. But yep, they had some resilience. They tried to make it a game. Ohio State, 2 late field goals to really pull away, but Penn State was 18.5-point dogs, so they definitely covered that. The under hit, and Ohio State ultimately looked really good. Penn State always gives them a run for their money. We had a 305-pounder, big man defensive tackle, Jerron Cage, scoop and score, 57-yarder, huge defensive play that took some life out of the Penn State offense late in the first half. And, Sean Clifford, he went out against Iowa, got injured, kind of didn't know if he was going to start. Looked like a shell of himself against Illinois, and he had a great game. 361 yards, threw the ball 52 times for 35 completions, had a touchdown and a pick. Jahan Dotson, we've talked about him all year. He's a star wide receiver. Made some star plays in this one. You like to see that Ohio State does have some vulnerability, because I thought they were going to come out here and just dog walk the Nittany Lions after they lost in 9 overtimes. And it's good to see that maybe my Wolverines have some hope, and that maybe you guys can win out the rest of the season, beat the Buckeyes. And I'd love to see that happen, just because then if you guys handed them another loss, they'd be out of the playoff conversation. And I'm already sick of seeing, what would happen with undefeated Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State? Could they leave these teams out? Like MSU, not even talking about you guys. I'm sick of that stuff. I want to see some change.
I agree with you 100%. Some would say it's physically impossible for a 305-pound defensive tackle, Jerron Cage, move the way he did with so much field to go. I can see if it's, a couple yards, but this guy was moving.
His teammates
over a lot of real
coaching
estate.
Staff said they couldn't believe that he was running. He didn't just fall on it, that he was going to pick it up and try to run the ball. They couldn't believe their eyes. And big man, big play, baby.
I couldn't believe my eyes when I was watching it. Really couldn't believe them. And to see that happen is kind of, it's a work of art. Seems like defying the laws of physics. I'm sure Sir Isaac Newton is turning over in his grave when he sees that happen. But impressive stuff, man. That really set the stage for the Ohio State win. But yeah, hopefully we can beat the Buckeyes. Hopefully you guys can. And, it's going to be a storybook finish for the Big Ten going down the stretch, especially in the Big Ten East.
Yeah, Penn State pretty much gets knocked out of the Big Ten East with that loss.
Yeah, they do. That sends them to 5 in the rankings. Just looking at the Big Ten East standings, MSU is number 1. Ohio State's right behind us. You're right behind them. But that script could flip real quick depending on the next few weeks. Then you got Maryland, Penn State, Rutgers, and Indiana. So big things coming, and a lot of things can happen between then and now. So we got to focus on
a little top heavy there with us, the Spartans, and the Ohio State Buckeyes. Then it just falls off, goes from undefeated in the conference, 1 loss in the conference, to 2-3 in the conference real quick.
That's kind of expected. That kind of, alludes to the fact that we talked on the Friday show about how weighted the Big Ten East is compared to the Big Ten West. And maybe there's some changes that have to happen. I don't know if those are those teams set up in these divisions geographically, or how are these decided? Do you know?
I am actually not sure. I don't imagine that it could be. Maybe it is geographically. That would make sense. Maryland, Penn State, New Jersey, and
Indiana,
and then everything else is the West. Yeah,
that does make sense. So if that's the case, then that's the case. Nothing really we can do about that. But
it's like the Northeasterners and then the Midwest country boys.
Yep, that's what it sounds like. All right, now we're going to get into a special segment of the show talking about the AP Top 15. Doing Top 15 keeps it a little more simple, keeps it more centered, kind of puts it in perspective about the landscape of who we're dealing with going down the stretch here. I'll share my screen of the AP updated polls, the updated AP polls. A little bit of a tongue twister there. And then the Gin Analytics, so the Cody Almasi Top 15 AP polls. And we'll see how they kind of compare. We'll see if you guys agree with them or not. I definitely agree with them. I'll try to blow this up a little bit more so you guys can see it better for those of you watching live. But I really like this dynamic, because the fact that we do this is good, because the AP polls and whoever constructs those, these analysts, these journalists, these people that are basically prima donnas, they have to be kept in check. They have to be kept in line, because if they're not, they're just going to run rogue with it. They're going to let their biases, their preconceived notions run their emotions as far as making certain rankings and putting certain teams where they should be. And there's some outliers here. There's some anomalies that probably shouldn't be there. And Cody, I'll let you explain those right now since you constructed this list. Go ahead and tell me why your AP poll ratings or rankings should be the case compared to the actual AP polls.
Yeah, there's just a couple injustices that the AP poll just we couldn't really forgive. So enough was enough. We had to create our own poll, the GA 15 as we're going to be calling it for now. And yeah, like Cincinnati, 8-0, they deserve lots of credit, but what makes them? How do they have a better resume than your Spartans with a win over? I think they have way more AP wins. The Spartans 2-0, I think, but anyway, I think it's just a lot more impressive than one win over Notre Dame. Notre Dame is over my Wolverines. Oregon is below Ohio State in the AP top 15 when Oregon beat Ohio State in a head-to-head matchup, and they have the same record. So there's just a few discrepancies that we had to really point out and bring to justice. We brought the Houston, the Cougars there. They're at 15. They're playing a great season. Nobody's really talked about them yet. They lost their first game, and they've won 7 since. And yeah, they might have to play Cincinnati. So Cincinnati is going to have to pay the piper here soon and will have to prove themselves. And if they belong at number 2, I still a little bit of Alabama bias, watching them my whole life be dominant. They're still going to be at 2. And that's why Texas A&M makes the 15 barely, because they found a way to beat the Crimson Tide. And it's not easy to do, even though, they did take that loss, and some people don't think they're as good as they are. Sometimes there's just those anomalies that cannot be explained, games that happen, And anything you see here that you want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. I want to talk about definitely the Oregon and Ohio State placement in the AP polls, the actual ones and where it should be. Since this was a head-to-head matchup, you got to kind of throw out the fact of schedule strength, because schedule strength does hold weight in the AP polls. I expect that to be the case. I, anticipate that week after week to be a factor in the making of the AP polls. When you have a head-to-head matchup, you kind of throw that schedule strength out the window. But on the contrary, you got to keep Alabama up there because they're in the SEC. They've been powerhouses year after year. And to have them lose obviously will drop them a little bit, but it's not going to drop them too much. You throw another loss in there for Alabama, though, you're going to see them drop down here into the tens.
Yep.
And that's just how it's going to have to be. And if they're not up there, then, or if they're not down here, then that's a significant problem within the AP polls. If they're anywhere 10 or lower with 2 losses, there's a significant problem there, and someone needs to be pulled aside and have them talked to. Might even have to take them out back and have a conversation in the parking lot. But
I really tried to keep the 6-2 teams off the list, even though Auburn, they're one of the next 5 out. They had a great win over Ole Miss. Ole Miss was down their top 3 receivers, which are a huge part of their game. That's one of the reasons why Houston got the 15th spot above them. And then last thing I wanted to say about my top 15, Wake Forest, the Demon Deacons, 8-0, and the UTSA, University of Texas at San Antonio Roadrunners, making the first ever GA 15. Roadrunner Nation. I'm following a lot of Roadrunners on Twitter, so I'm giving them some love.
You got to give the respect where it's deserved. As far as being undefeated, that goes for Wake Forest and it goes for UTSA. You got to give respect where respect is earned, and that is in an undefeated season up till this point. Week 9 is behind us now. We're going
UTSA beat Illinois. That's one reason why they're in the 15, because they beat Illinois to start the season, and Illinois has that win over Penn State. So
yeah,
a little convoluted reasoning, but hey,
it's convoluted, but it holds a lot of weight, and that's the thing too that a lot of people making these AP polls really don't consider. They only care about the high-tiered teams, the teams that are bringing in the high ratings, the teams that have the most students, the teams that have the most capacity in their stadiums. Those are the wrong statistics to be looking at. These teams all have to compete against each other, and that even involves seeding in the NCAA basketball landscape too, which we'll talk about very soon with that season Among Us coming up in a couple weeks. So we'll have to get involved in that and get re-educated on the entire college basketball scene, which I'm super excited for. I don't know about you, but I'm very excited.
A little more excited now after taking that out to you guys this weekend.
Man.
A lot of more Wolverine fans are changing their profile, their Twitter avies to Juwan Howard now.
Oh yeah, well everyone's ready for Juwan Howard, the Michigan Wolverines, to really make a statement this year, and they've been coming out hot and they've been making the scene very hot and heavy year after year under Juwan Howard. So he's been doing great things, following in the footsteps of John Beilein. So I'm looking forward to watching these Michigan Wolverines.
My favorite part about basketball season is the Spartans and Wolverines get to play each other multiple times, baby.
I love it too. That gives each of us a chance for redemption. We play at your house, you guys play at our house. It's a great thing. So
and it's back and forth, man. Like at least recently, 2020, you guys whooped our asses. You guys can we just talk about that for a minute? How you guys got robbed of that March Madness and how that tournament got canceled when you guys are about to make a run. That was awful, man. I couldn't believe. That's one of the worst things about COVID was March Madness getting taken from us.
I actually forgot about that until this point, until you just reminded me of it. And Captain getting his chance to kind of redeem himself in that March Madness. But it is what it is. I wish they would have redone it. But at that point, a lot of the players have gone to the next level and been drafted. So it's basically just a very dark mark, a sad day, a sad time of year, especially to happen right before March Madness to do that. And they were going to say, oh, we're going to play without fans. And now everyone was like, oh, that sucks, but we'll still be able to live with that, and things like that. But then they said, nope, we're canceling the whole thing. Once I saw that on my newsfeed, I'm like, that can't be a final decision, right? Like March Madness is my favorite time of the year.
And they were like, I'm fucking done.
Unbelievable. Now, I don't think they'll ever be able to live that down. You can't look up the 2020 March Madness because it doesn't exist. Okay. So take notes of that, and hopefully that never happens again, no matter how bad a uncontrollable disease gets. Hopefully we can make it in a controlled environment in somewhat of a bubble. They had the NBA championship in a bubble. Why couldn't we do that for NCAA? Questions will be asked, and I'm still waiting on answers. So I guess that brings us towards the end. Do you have any closing statements you want to say? Do we want to give, we'll wait to save the picks for Friday. Didn't give any picks this past week, but we'll give some picks this coming Friday for Friday's show. You got any closing statements going into the rest of this week?
Let's just pick our NFL game for the night. What do we got here?
Let's do it. We got Monday Night Football.
I also fucking Calvin Ridley, you son of a bitch, bro. I'm rolling in one of my big leagues, and you decide to take a break. Why couldn't you tell the night before? I checked like an hour and a half before game time, and you were projected like 18 points, dog. You got me the L, but fucking let's talk about Monday Night Football.
You got me the L. Let's talk about that for a second. You got me. I got to pull up the sleeper real quick, and I was a heartbreaker for me because I'm sitting at like 2-5 now, maybe 2-6, and it's not looking good.
That's our other league, yeah.
And I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to find it since we're in the next week now, but
yeah,
absolute heartbreaker. And I think you got me by 2 points. It was like 185, 183.
Yeah.
Oh
Damn.
Boy, that was a tough one to swallow for me. And I actually got beat too by 2 points by Stainer in the basketball league.
Damn.
I'm really going through it right now in fantasy. I'm just it is what it is. Fantasy is not my friend right now. Let's just put it that way.
My hoops squad is not top tier. I started 0-2, so I also got to go in there and set that before games start tonight. Good call. But Giants and Chiefs tonight, 2 teams under 500 looking for some kind of salvation. Patrick Mahomes looking for answers. Obviously, the Chiefs are the easy pick here, 10.5-point favorite. What do you think is going to happen?
I'm going to go out on a limb and take the Giants plus 10.5 at Kansas City. I don't think they'll be able to put up enough points. They've been struggling offensively. They don't really know what they're doing. Got to figure it out. Have some significant losses to questionable teams this year. Getting dusted by the Titans. Can't do that if you're Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. I get it. You're held to a higher standard. You're held on a pedestal, things like that. But you got to come out stronger in games like that. Come out stronger offensively. So the lack of being able to put points on the board is going to work to be the detriment for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'm looking for the Giants to cover, no matter how trash they are.
Yeah, the Chiefs are not used to this. This is unfamiliar territory for them. They really need somebody to step up. Their running back room is really depleted, but other teams have found ways to win, that being the issue at hand. So you really got to look to Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce to just get some consistency going. And then someone on the defense, I'm talking my Michigan graduate, Frank Clark. I'm talking Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. You guys are leaders. Chandler Jones, you guys got to, or Chris Jones, you guys got to get in there, and you guys have to just change something, or this dynasty's at least taking a break off this year if you don't do something quick.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So it's going to be a great game. What's your pick for tonight?
It's tough. I'm going to go with the Chiefs, and I say I won't predict a score, but I'll say that they cover the 10.5 because I'm not confident in Danny Dimes or the Giants offense. I was riding on them early for a couple games in. They looked good, were impressing me, but New York Giants are looking like they have for the last 8 or 9 years now.
Well, I'm hoping Mr. Dimes is able to play with a chip on his shoulder tonight and really play with nothing to lose. That's what the Giants have been forced to do the last couple of years, under piss poor management. They got to figure it out, and they got to play like they have nothing to lose, and they really don't have anything to lose at this point. So still got a lot of season left, still could really make something of their season. They got to, essentially win out to be able to make themselves put themselves in a position to gain a playoff chance, bid, wild card, whatever you want to call it. But they got to play with nothing to lose, and that's the only way they'll cover.
Yeah, anything can happen in the NFL, though, as we see week in and week out. The Jets and no name like Mike White, or what was that guy's name who beat the Bengals? Backup quarterback City yesterday. It was all kinds of backup quarterbacks.
Oh yeah. Got Cade. What was it? Cooper Rush.
Yeah, Central Michigan. Yep, we got to give him some love. Chippewa.
Yeah, he came out. He played with his heart on his sleeve last night. That was an impressive performance, and Dak was really getting in his ear, and his family was even there in the stadium, and they were giving him props. They were happy. They were on another level. So that was really cool to see, and to see the Cowboys get the win. I'm not a really big Cowboys fan. I actually like to root against the Cowboys any chance I get, but to see Cooper Rush get the job done last night against the Vikings was a sight to see.
I seen that man play in person at the Western game a couple of years back. So definitely cool to see. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely to see that Chippewa do work in the NFL. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. You got anything else, Cody, or can we sign off?
Let's sign off, brother. It's been a good one.
Deal. It's been a good one. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to stay tuned for merchandise dropping very soon, as well as the dates for the disc golf tournament and the Turkey Bowl coming out this week. Everything will be decided this week. It's kind of last minute, I know, but it's under control. Everything is calm and collected over here at Gin Promotions, so stay tuned for that. Also, stay tuned and posted to all of our social media outlets. Cody's been killing it on Twitter, getting involved in lots of conversations with people all over the sports landscape, getting involved in controversial conversations everywhere. It's awesome. It's a sight to see. Make sure to check him out on Twitter at Gin Analytics, and stay tuned everywhere. Follow the link tree down below, linktree/GinPros, linktr.ee/GinPros for those of you guys listening on Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you guys on the social media waves. But for now, I'm John J. II with Cody Almasi for the Gin College Podcast. Have a great night.